People are going to start joining and be very confused.
Why?
Like people are in person.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
And they're like, wow, like look, there's actually like two humans next to each other.
Are we live, Zach?
We are live.
Oh, we are? That's
We are
fantastic.
live. Yeah,
Even better.
exactly.
That's fantastic. So, hey, I'm Nick Capozzi from Demostack. I'm here with Jake Dunlap in Austin, Texas at Jake's house.
What's up,
Thanks for
man?
letting me crash, buddy.
Dude, coming and hanging out at the house. They're like, hey, we're going to do this. It's like, you're going to be here, man. Just like come by the house.
No, it's fantastic. And what was really cool was actually you brought barbecue from Terry Black's.
Terry Black's.
So, quick sidebar here. You are from KC originally.
I am from KC.
And I'm going to put you on the spot here where you admitted that the barbecue in Texas is actually way better than that in KC.
Okay, that's not what I said. What I said was that per capita, there are more. So for all my KC friends out there, KC is still up there, but there's just a lot of really good barbecue here.
And
I'll leave it at that.
And I learned when I came here last February that Terry Black's is where you want to go.
I think Terry Black's is the most consistent top 3 or 4 spot that you can get into. You know what I mean? It's not like Franklin's or one of these other spots. Franklin's is fantastic.
It is.
But people sleep on it. I think people sleep on it because it's you can get it, right? Whereas they don't always run out and create like the scarcity for you, and the line's not 7 hours, right? So.
But that brisket, I had to stop eating the brisket because we were doing this webinar, because otherwise I would have been napping on the couch here. So
that's what the couch is for.
All right, perfect.
This is for the post barbecue nap. That's what happens.
I like it. So today we're talking about adapting to the new buyer journey in 2022, right? And what's been really interesting is that, you know, obviously during the pandemic, everything changed, but now I feel like we've reset in the last 3 to 6 months. And what changes from where you sit are you seeing with B2B buyers today?
Well, it's interesting the difference between what I'm seeing with B2B buyers and sales teams, meaning B2B buyers, amazing stat I saw with Gartner. They did the resurvey, I think a few months ago, which was pre-pandemic, 17% of buyers preferred a virtual interaction or virtual sales process. Now it's 92%. And so 92% of buyers are saying, I like working from home. I don't want to have to go into the office and meet you. But on the flip side, the actions I'm seeing from sales teams are like, we're ready to get on the road, right? We're ready to get out there. And what I feel like has happened, it's not that we shouldn't, right? Don't get me wrong, face to face, like this is fantastic. But the issue that, at least that I see, is that if buyers want a digital experience and they want a digital sales experience, I don't think we're really adapting to that. Like, what is a digital sales experience? Right. It's still just Zoom staring into that like green dot of death, right? And like just talking at you the whole time. So I feel like we've got a little bit of a disjointed here, whereas we start to unlock and more people want to go face to face. Are we now still going in with the mindset of like, we're going to go back to face as opposed to like, we've got to be really good at both?
Okay, so that's super interesting, because I do think there is going to be some sort of hybrid. I don't think we're going to go back to how it was, but I also don't think we're staying in this Zoom world we live in. So what are buyers expecting from sellers today? How does that look from a buyer's perspective in March of 2022?
Well, look, I don't think it's that different than what people wanted before. They want someone who can help them to solve a challenge, right? What I do believe is that, and what we're seeing too is that, look, why I think reply rates are so low for email campaigns and from outbound is that buyers aren't, what the value props, generic value props aren't resonating, right? They're looking for someone who understands their story, is maybe more personalized. I get you. I mean, that's always been sales, but I feel like now more than ever, where the noise ratio is so high, that buyers are looking for someone out of the gate who's like, oh, I get it. Like, I get you, or I really know your space. I'm an expert in your space, more so than ever, as opposed to like, I'm a super expert in every nuance of the product.
That's really interesting. Okay. So how does that then affect a B2B sales organization if that's what the buyer's looking for?
It's about friction. Like right now, we've built sales organizations that are focused on a very rigid one-size-fits-all process. And I'm sure you've all seen the stats about people are X amount down the buying cycle before they come, et cetera. Another way to think about that is that every person who comes inbound or even who touches you outbound is going to be at a completely different spot in the journey. And what I mean by that is it used to be, and let's just fast forward 5 or 10 years ago, if I came to you, everyone is coming in with like a basic same level of intent. Like, you weren't that educated, you didn't know that much. So having a one-size-fits-all sales process made sense. Like, every person was basically at the same point. Fast forward to today. Some people are coming in and they're like, I have done the research, I've been on G2 or insert other site. I've actually already took it to my boss and presented. I've got a budget of $75,000. Let's have a conversation. Other people are at that other complete end. I don't know much about this. My boss told me to do some research, or I wanted to do some research. So the problem that we have right now is, just like in marketing, we have all these personalized experiences. You come to the website, I know everything about you, where there's hundreds of variations. We have one variation of a sales process based on what market motion you are. And so I think what we've got to realize is that we've got to be able to, instead of focusing on qualifying the buying opportunity first, where are they in the buying process first? And then once we know that, then I can say, oh, you're here. Let's skip that BS. Like, let's just go straight to XYZ part of it.
Okay, so I'm the seller. How do I know? How would you ask that question to determine where your buyer is?
Okay,
but that's an important question.
It's a great question. Don't ask the question, how much research have you done? But that's normally what we ask inbound leads. How did you find us? How much resource? And
Right.
you know, like that can be a part of the questions, right? But again, what I start to look for is like, do they demonstrate knowledge of the space? So the questions that you ask are on, you know, tell me about your role. What's a team look like? Those should all still be the first questions. Who am I talking to? How do they fit? And then when I talk to them about the challenges, right? Everyone knows the discovery question. Tell me your top 1 or 2 challenges. I'm going to ask them deeper questions to understand how big of an issue this is, how much research they've done on it.
Right.
But I'm not going to explicitly talk about my product because I'm not ready yet. So instead, I might say, what are your top 2 challenges around X? What's this? Okay, what resources have you put against this? Have you started to, how have you thought about starting to solve for that challenge? And then I'm going to hear things. I'm like, look, yep, we started the vendor selection. They'll just start to, you know, vomit more and more like things on you that tell you like, okay, this person has a certain level of intent. Like they have dedicated resources. They've told you this is a top 2 priority. They'll probably have name dropped the competition at that point or some
Right.
other player. So it's not, you don't really have to do even that different of a discovery process. You just have to dig deeper. And then once you hear those different things, oh, this person's here versus here, that's going to then inform maybe how much I talk about the product or what the next step might be.
So how do you, okay, so that's really interesting. Let me ask you a question first. When did we get away from just having the discovery and the demo in the same conversation? When did that shift to getting into
That's not, I mean, that's where I grew up, right? Late 2000s, early 2010s, my teams, you know, that's what we would do.
Right.
But here's what would happen. If at the end of the discovery, you weren't like, it wasn't a fit, there was no need.
Yep.
What my team would, what we train them how to do is to say, hey, based on what you're telling me, it sounds like you're doing this really well,
Yep.
killing it. You're doing this. I'm not sure, like, let me just tell you a quick 2 minutes on who we are.
Yep.
And then you hang up the phone. Then guess what? Then you flip the side, and that's maybe 5 or 10% of conversations. Then the rest of the people are like, great, so let's hop in. Let me tell you a little bit about what we do and how we see the world. First, you mentioned this. That's how every demo, it's that simple. They're going to tell you these 3 things are most important. And then when you go to it, you say, you told me this. This is how I do that. You told me that. This is how we do that.
Okay.
And so I think what I'm seeing though is that we're not training reps. We're training them on this kind of one size fits all demo a lot of the time.
Okay.
And a discovery process that's based on qualification and not understanding the real needs. It's like, did you fit BANT or fit in parts of Medic? Is this the economic buyer or whatever?
So so obviously, look, you do a lot of training and discovery with a lot of companies. What are people missing? What's the key that they're missing in their discovery? What do you see most consistently when it comes to missing out on discovery opportunities?
I think it goes back to what I was talking about now, which is that I feel like as a lot of leaders, the conversations, and maybe I'll answer that in like a roundabout way. A lot of leaders, the conversations they have with their reps are like, where are we at with this deal? Like we're asking tactical questions about, have you identified like BANT, again, like insert qualification framework, as opposed to training reps on how to have consultative conversations.
Right.
We're so focused on the only questions that we ask our rep is this person the economic buyer? How do you know? Do they check this? But we're not asking to really understand, like, do they really know if there's a need? Like, okay, you told me that this is the need. Like most of the sales leader's time, in my opinion, should be spent coaching with reps to know the difference between a would like to have and a need. And so I feel like that's it, is that the reps are being trained because their bosses are asking them questions that are very tactical. Did you identify budget? Did you identify authority? Not, okay, let's talk more about like their business. Like, how does this company make money? When a reps would come to me when I was a leader, it's the very first question. How do they make money? Because if you don't know how they make money, how can you help them? If you don't know what their business actually does, how can you actually help their business? If you're just spitting product. So there's a level of preparedness, but I really think a lot of it though comes down to need, that we don't do a good enough job of understanding, like, is there a business need here? Or can I help to create the need? That used to be a thing too. We used to call it create the need, because guess what? Not everyone had a need when we came in. They weren't qualified, right? And right now I feel like if someone's not like, hey, of course we've got $80,000 in budget dedicated to this. Reps are like, not qualified. Like, what? Like, what do you mean they're not qualified? Like, you better get back on the phone and find a need. We used to talk about that all the time. We used to talk about, again, like the concept of create the need, which is like, what's a strategic initiative that's happening in the business around a need that we can tie to? And I think we're listening for a very tactical need of like, I need something that can do this, as opposed to like, hey, we're trying to transform organization and grow by 4%. That's what I want to help you to do. That's a real need, not I need a way to better file my, Excel documents in a better format, which is what I think most reps are being trained to qualify for.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So take me through it. Give me a discovery. I'm a client. I have a business.
Yeah.
I have a consulting business, and I need to get more consulting clients. How do I approach that? How would you approach that?
Yeah. So I think this goes back to other trends, which we haven't talked about, which is one, I'm a firm believer that today the concept of needing a champion or a true decision maker doesn't exist. The decision maker in particular, we all make decisions now in a circle, which is like, even as a CEO of a consulting company, she could say no, he could say no, they could say no. And if any of them, it used to be like 10 years ago, people just buy stuff and they'd be like, hey, I like this too, I think it's going to work. Now nobody wants to make that call. So the very first set of questions is like, hey, I work with a lot of owner operators of consulting organizations. What are the 2 or 3 areas of the business that you're most focused on? That tells me exactly he does this. Okay, tell me a little bit about the team. Okay, well, Jennifer does this, Brian does this, Jake does that. Okay, great. Now I know who needs to be on the next call. Now I can start to drive action, like after the call. Then I go into some of the needs questions. Great. So top level priorities for you. What are the top 2 priorities for the rest of this quarter as you look forward into Q2? Right. So I'm going to try to understand where the needs are and who the players are. And then once I understand who the players are that need to be involved in the need, I candidly just want to hang up the phone with you right now, because I already know I need to get another call in the books with them. I can ask you a few more questions, but my time with you is kind of done. And I used to train reps on that. Like after the first 5 minutes of call, I kind of just want to hang up.
Right.
And I know it kind of sounds fucked up, but it's like, it's the truth, because like I already know that there needs to be another meeting. There always needs to be another meeting. So therefore I can sit here and waste my time and I'm going to get you hype, but like, I also don't need to spend too much time. And again, because I understand the importance of the discovery process, and I think we've lost a lot of that. Right. And that's more important today than ever in this kind of digital sales environment.
Okay, so let's talk digital sales environment for a second. So, not to say Zoom is boring, but let's just say those type of meetings are boring. What are some of the tools that are either emerging or they're an absolute necessity that some organizations don't have?
Well, Zoom has baked into it a whiteboarding tool. I would say maybe 4% of reps even know this. Like, if you have to think about it, I think Gong released a stat, maybe it was 2 or 3 months ago. They said people that show presentations on the first call, I think, have a lower close rate. John Barris, I remember, like, was like, hallelujah. Like this, like, I remember I saw his post on LinkedIn about it. So that's not engaging. Engaging isn't pull up my PowerPoint, talk at you, even if I'm asking questions, but I'm really not listening. I'm just going through it. So again, like, I think the most basic one that all of you have is, why not pull up the whiteboard? Why not like pull up and just, you can, by the way, you can hook it into your iPad too, and you can draw. There's a tool called Mural, Mural, that we use internally to make Zooms more effective, which I think really helps us, where it's like digital whiteboarding. We can have different sticky notes and there's a lot of different things you could do. Why not, before we're getting ready to meet, send you a vidyard? There's a lot of different things that you can do. Hey, I'm looking forward to the meeting. Here are the 4 agenda items we're going to cover. Tell me what you think about this, right? Looking forward to the conversation. Then afterward, I send you a vidyard. There's just a lot of these different tools that right now we're using to either not get people excited for the meeting. We're not necessarily, again, being particularly engaging. There's like technique stuff, like use their name. That alone. Guess what? You'll see, like, if they're on email, you use their name, they're like, what? Am I in trouble? Right? So there's some technique things, but I think it's more, it's a collaborative conversation versus right now we pull up, we do the screen share, and I talk at you for a certain period.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And Will, thanks for the comment. Will Taylor is saying no one wants to be blasted with information, they want dialogue. And that's exactly it. And I think too, not to go down a rabbit hole, but video is a really underused advantage when it comes to engaging and getting people interested, right? Because it's like less than 5% of sellers are using it at any point in the sales cycle. But I've had times where I've sent the vidyard out and I've had 40 individual unique users on their side actually watch that video.
Wow.
All those stakeholders,
Yep.
the influencers.
Yeah, check this out. This is what a good message looks like, or whatever it is. Yeah,
100%, 100%. Okay, so what's the future of all this selling? I mean, we were talking about it a little bit during lunch. You know, communities, different ways of engaging. What do you see over the next like 3, 4, 5 years of what's going to emerge there?
Well, there's the marketing side of it, which is that marketing, we're seeing kind of a change in marketing tides. It was like brand used to be cool. Like brand back in like 2000 before was like a very important part because we couldn't track everything.
Right.
Then we got all these fancy marketing tools. We could start to track everything. And now what happened is we pivoted too hard one way, right? We pivoted too hard toward, well, if it's not an MQL or an SQL. So we continued to diminish the value of brand. Because why? And the question you asked me is, Jake, how do I track it?
Right.
Like, it's like when people ask me, Jake, what's the ROI of one LinkedIn post? I'm like, I don't know. I know cumulatively that as a lead source continues to do. I think it's about moving more and more toward focusing toward revenue contribution for marketing. Right. Yeah, that to me is on the marketing side. On the sales side, again, it goes back to this idea of meeting customers where they're at. That again, if I know based on your lead source where you come in, if I know how you want to interact, or we have a conversation, and so I'm like, okay, let's just go. He's ready to do a demo. Let me just like talk to him about it. Again, it's about marketing's already doing this in B2C. It's already personalizing everything that you see on the internet.
Yep. And
so the B2B sales process also has to feel more personalized, I guess is the right word.
Okay, so let's take that then to, product storytelling in a way that connects your product to value. Because still, I get on phone calls. I mean, even there's a joke on LinkedIn, like, you pitch slap me, you connect with me on LinkedIn, and then you're just,
Is that a thing? Pitch slap?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
No. Like when you're getting those automated LinkedIn messages, right? Which don't ever do that.
But we have synergies. Well, I connected you. We have synergies. Why would I not immediately pitch you?
I love too when they're digital marketers and they're like, hey, listen, we got a great digital marketing solution. I'm like, this, you're pitch slapping me. So how do we really connect our product to storytelling to establish its value?
All right. Well, there's a few things in there. I would say a lot of this, though, it starts with some of the more I would call like foundations of sales, which is, are you spending time training your sales team on what your persona or individuals within that persona care about? And I think right now, again, we're not. We're training them how to ask qualification questions, which aren't really a dialogue, like what he said. Like, that's not really a dialogue. That's extracting value out of what you want out of the conversation. It's not a true dialogue. So because that's the discovery process, then when we go to the demo, we only have one choice but to show a cookie cutter demo, because I don't really know anything specific. I didn't do any research. I don't know the persona. So I don't really know how to talk you through it. So I do this kind of one size fits all, whether you're a finance buyer, an IT buyer, the business unit buyer, etc. So I think a lot of this goes back to like, how well does your team understand the persona? That if I'm pitching this, and even at a basic level, we call it a level 1 and a level 2. Level 2, I borrowed this from a different consultant many years ago. A level 1 is a 5-minute way that I talk about what we do that's relevant to executives. I think an executive cares about admin features, right? Or like I don't care. Please do not ever show me how to set up a report, right? It's never going to happen, right? I'm not going to do it. And so it's that ability to say, hey, as an executive, how do you want to be the product explained to you? As a finance buyer, and that's where, again, Demostack comes in, and why I think it's so interesting is like, I can then say, hey, here are the 5 or 6 people in that circle, and I can have that talk track that's for a CEO or an executive business buyer. I can have the talk track that's for the IT buyer. Because again, the IT buyer cares about different things. This person cares about threats. How's this going to help us stay ahead of the competition? They care about proven safety, right, score, compliance. So imagine a world where I have demos set up that are tailored to those individual groups or personas. And that's where the best of the best sellers are able to do that. I mean, we're talking top 5% are able to switch, or it takes you 3 years to learn it. And that's where, like, not so shameless plug, but being very candid, where I think Demostack is set to kind of disrupt the way that we explain what we do, especially early in the process.
Yep. No, 100%, because you can spin up a tailored demo in just minutes. But let's talk about kind of storytelling.
That was good. You dropped in the radio voice there too.
Did I?
Yeah.
That wasn't radio. I can give you radio voice if you want. I can do that.
No, it's good.
By the way, if you're in Austin Wednesday night, I will be with some of the Demostack team at the Pre-Sales Collective event in Austin. Check out the post on the Demostack page. And if you're in Austin, like come join us. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's at a brew pub in like North Austin. So
Cool.
I mean, what trouble could happen there?
Well, we're going to Dell Match Play, so there will be plenty of trouble with that. It's like
Okay.
the big PGA tournament that we have for every year. So
Okay.
that kicks off this week.
So let me ask you, you kind of got into personas for a second. We were also talking at lunch if personas are still relevant. What about focusing though on the actual individual? So take away what they do in their job title and saying, okay, this is finance, they fit into this box. How do you pull out the person inside there to continue that conversation and really hit on those pain points?
Yeah. So there's, I can't remember who somebody said this, the difference between like personalization and relevancy. Relevancy to me are things like what I was talking, like persona based. Look, I know a lot of CFOs care about these 3 or 4 things. Personalize is, I care about this because this thing in particular is happening. So for me, candidly, personas are still like more than relevant, right? Because here's the thing, your product also only solves like 4 challenges. Like, let's be real here. Like, it doesn't solve world hunger and peace. Like, it solves like helping your team to better tailor your demo. You know what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
It doesn't. And so here's the key. If you understand your persona, that these are the trends, and here, you want to know how you do it? It's called Google trends in finance in manufacturing 2022. And it's going to tell you these are the trends. And then you have to think in your head, out of those trends, how do I solve for those trends? So to me, if you can, relevancy is the high level on which of the 4. Personalization is like, you care about 2 because of this reason. But I think for a lot of reps, you don't need to necessarily overcomplicate it. If you understand trends in your space, you know how you solve for those trends. And then the personalization is, you told me you cared about these 2 things, and I'm only going to talk about those 2.
Right.
That's good enough, man. I think that gets you most of the way there.
So, okay, let's shift a little bit to talk about product-led growth. So the reality is people want
product-led growth.
Well, people want products sooner, right? They do. They don't want to sit through 3 demo calls, right? So what is the future of that? Because obviously that's coming at us fast.
Well, look, newsflash, most of you are not meant to ever be product-led growth companies. I'm sorry. I wish it was that easy. I wish we could all build the freemium model and then they would just flock. You're not Slack. Everybody thinks you're not Slack. Give up all hope. Some people need to give up all hope. You're not going to be this product-led growth organization. Now, over time, as we get better and better in like data, et cetera, can more sure. Right. But I think that that's the other big piece. Is like product-led growth is a very hot button right now, but not every company is going to be product-led growth. I'm sorry. Like it just is not.
Okay. Right? Assuming they are.
Assuming that they are. Right. And then we can talk through like what equals that. Here's how maybe I would switch it. Is there are buyers, again, coming in with different levels of intent. If I hypothetically, I come in as a PLG buyer where I have used the product and I've done this, I'm at intent level 1 or 2. The same thing is though the true if I'm not a product-led growth buyer. I've done my research, I've done this, I'm coming in with a different level of intent. To me, PLG is all about like, how do I start to capitalize people based on different levels of intent, based on usage behavior? Or if it's not PLG, how do I capitalize or know what to do with you based on intent, based on marketing or website behavior, right? So if you're a product-led growth company, and people, again, I totally agree with you. You've got to meet buyers with where they're at. You can't continue to put up, but I think it's the same for normal companies too. Even if you're selling a software that's not a freemium type product, and someone says like, hey, could you send me a copy of the demo? Like, I want to go show this to someone. Send them the copy. If someone's asked about price, like we cannot continue to gate price, not talk about the competition, or not give people access. Now, if you're a certain level, I'm okay with you saying, hey, I'm going to send this to you and then we'll do these things as well. But I feel like we, again, going back to what we talked about before, we've got to remove friction. And so if someone says, it used to be, again, as a sales leader, you would never tell your people, you would never say, send them to something. It would always, I got to hop on a call.
Right.
Let's hop on a call. Right. So I think what I'm responding to is like, I don't think it's just product-led growth. I think every B2B buyer today, no matter if you're a PLG company or not, customers are going to come and you better be ready to meet them with where they're at, because they're also just not just PLG is like, I don't want to wait 2 or 3 calls for a demo. Enterprise software is the same way. You know, like if I'm buying something for 150,000, I want to just let me guide here. Yeah. Right. And so, and I think that trend isn't going anywhere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's shift again. I want to talk about content quickly. And the reason is you've obviously had a lot of success with content. You were one of the trailblazers on LinkedIn. Where do you see that going in the next couple of years? What's the future of that?
The easiest like analogy I have for people is like, it's your online reputation, right? And when I think about LinkedIn or TikTok or whatever platform. It's your digital reputation. More and more people, before they meet with you or interact with you, they Google your name. Right. They go and look. And Jeff Gittimer, I interviewed Jeff Gittimer. If you don't know who he is, he's like a sales, Little Red Book of Sales. He's like a sales legend guy. And he said this, I interviewed him, this has been about a year now. He's like, nobody wants to meet with a nobody. Right. And if you think about getting a meeting with an executive level, etc., you know, we close millions of dollars based on organic, inbound, free social posts. Millions. Within about the first 6 months, we had a deal, 6-figure deal. The woman, the very first call was, I don't know exactly what you do, but I think we need your help. Swear to God, like she ended up spending 6+ figures with us over multiple years. And all of you as sellers, you better, like, I think what the problem that I see with a lot of sellers is not aligning their passion to their digital footprint. Meaning, look, if I work at Gong, it's a win-win. I get to talk about sales all day and build my reputation. If I work at a company that sells to finance leaders, do you want to be famous sales leader person and not closing any business, but you look cool to your peers? Or do you want to be the go-to resource for finance leaders? You got to make a choice for your digital reputation and what your digital footprint is. And I think too many sellers right now are caught up in being LinkedIn famous and getting likes from other sellers. Whereas, look, if I was a seller today, my whole digital footprint would be to be the expert in whatever I sold into.
Right.
Whether it's manufacturing, dent, whatever the thing is. So maybe I would live on, if I sold into dentists, maybe I'd live on Facebook and Instagram. If I sold into this group, maybe I'd live on some other random app. If I sold into this group,
I
TikTok.
sold to dentists, it was Instagram actually.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
There you go.
So I think right now, reputation, it's LinkedIn and TikTok are the easiest places to build a reputation right now.
Yep.
Second, TikTok that I ever did, 27,000 views, 100 likes. The organic traffic, it's like the LinkedIn for this, like, because you don't have to pay to play like other places. So look, what's it need to be on TikTok? I don't know, but it's like free traffic, so we're going to keep doing it. Like
100%.
Why not keep doing it? We're just chopping up different videos different ways. And again, I think a lot of marketers and sales teams were always looking for the call to action. What's the CTA? And I mean, this took me a long time to get over it. Like 2018, I was like, but if I'm not posting a link on LinkedIn, how can we track if it was effective? I'm dead serious. Like, I was like, this brand stuff is crazy. So for me, it was more about, here's what I do know, is that if you become a resource for a group of people, and it can be a niche group of people, you don't have to have 100,000 followers. You can have 5,000 of the right followers. If you become a resource for a group of people, that never goes away. No, but that never goes away.
No, you're 100% right. And that's one thing I tell people all the time. You don't even have to be an expert. You just need to be one rung higher on the ladder to bring value, just to bring value. But the higher you get on that ladder, obviously, then the more credibility you have.
Absolutely.
But I think what's happening now is that there's so many people trying to create influence on LinkedIn that it's actually it's muddying the waters a little bit, right? So I think there are opportunities for different mediums like TikTok. Like even 6 months ago, people were laughing like, Nick, why are you putting anything on TikTok?
Right, yeah, of course.
There's no business value. And I said that, well, I disagree with that. But I want to spin back to the woman who spent the 6 figures with you and said, I don't really know what you do, but I need you. What'd you tell her? What does Skaled do?
Well, I walked her through. I said, look, like based on, again, the tough part about consulting, you can probably arrange this. And I think we've struggled with this is, well, tell me what the challenge is, right? And so as we've continued to hone our value prop, our core business is focused on helping people either one, with established companies, modernize their sales approach. We're the largest implementation partner for a wide variety of sales technologies. We do more of that work than anyone. Because I truly believe the way that we're going to build and scale organizations in the future is not just throw more bodies at it. Right. And every sales leader knows exactly what I'm talking about. Every single one of you for 2022 has a hiring waterfall that equals your quota, as opposed to how do I become more effective and more productive? There are many, many teams that are spending $1,000 per month per rep on sales technology, right? The productivity gains we're seeing are not even close to what we should be seeing. And so when you ask what is Skaled, what we're doing is helping larger companies to modernize and bring that, but other organizations to scale different and to scale more effectively with process improvements like what we're talking about today on removing friction in the customer journey and getting to sales faster. And then how do I augment that with technology? Because that's the future. Is if you don't understand how these sales, there's 2,000 plus sales technologies now. If you as a leader keep outsourcing your knowledge of sales tech to your ops team, you're going to be way behind the 8 ball, because you're going to continue to want to build teams this old school way, because you don't even know what Demostack is. You don't even know that, wait, I could set up this and I could do that. Well, that's way more complex. And so there's just a whole world of sales leaders right now that are going through this kind of transition period. And so we help them get through that.
Well, it's easy to explain Demostack. You spin up a tailored environment like faster than it takes to make a cup of coffee. It's really easy, frankly. So.
He's got it down. He's got it down.
Okay, Terry Blacks, if you're in Austin, Austin's blown up. Like Austin, so Austin's when is the tipping point in Austin is no longer cool and everyone's moving somewhere else? When does that happen? I'm just
we're not there yet. I moved here in 2018, so I feel like
Okay.
I was ahead of the curve a little bit. Not really, but like the COVID wave curve, I was
Right.
ahead of. You know, Austin's really interesting, man. And like I feel like again because like COVID, I didn't get a chance to like, get out in the mix as much now. But it's, you know, obviously it's a lot of California. So we got a lot of California folks moving here. I moved here from New York, so you know.
I heard it described as California with God and guns.
That works, or I've heard it. California East was the other one that I heard. But that's it. No, I mean Austin. Look, it's got a rich tech community. Lots of cool, new, interesting people coming.
Yep.
I think people are really invested in keeping Austin as different from other places as well too, as opposed to like I've got to bend this to be like how I was whenever I moved here. Right. So it's a good in between. We like it. I've got 2 kids, so it's the best of both worlds. Then I was in New York last week, so I get kind of the best of both worlds. I traveled to New York so a lot and then come here.
I live in Phoenix, which is it's a town.
It's a
big town.
Blob
it's
of
a
a
sprawl.
city.
It's a sprawl.
I lived there for 5 years.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. You went to ASU, Forks Up. But I find that Austin has like a town feel to it, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Right. Like you have all this. So Phoenix doesn't have all the tech, but it's a town. Here you got all the tech, but it's a town.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, people don't realize Austin's the 4th largest city in Texas, right? Like San Antonio is bigger, Dallas is bigger,
Right.
Houston is bigger. So Austin's, I think, 2 million people, maybe something like that. So it's good, man. It's the best of both worlds, man. What do you mean? I got my country club like 3 minutes down the road here. Got my 2 kids. They go to school like 12 minutes here. I can be downtown in 11 minutes. Like,
No,
it's a lot easier, man.
It's good
It
living.
makes life a lot easier.
You know, it's funny though. I've been traveling a lot, and I'm like, maybe I want to move somewhere else outside of Phoenix. And then I realized, like, the weather everywhere else. Like, I'm here last night. There's like, oh, there's a tornado coming through. I'm like, great.
Well, now you got the dust storms and the monsoons.
Like once a year,
Yeah.
once every 2 years.
Well, we don't usually have
nothing.
tornadoes, but we did have tornadoes here. I don't think too many people were.
Well, I was sitting in the restaurant, and the waitress is like, "Oh, I see those guys over there. They're roofers. They're storm chasing." I'm like, "Oh, maybe it's not for me." All right, we're gonna wrap this up. Do we have any last questions before we hit this up? Anything for Jake here? What's happening? What's the future? Where's the next big tech hub, Jake?
Oh, dude, man, I'm not Nostradamus here. Okay, like I don't know. I mean, I think what you saw is, you know, Austin blew up, Miami blew up.
Yeah.
You've got like Salt Lake is kind of maturing. Boise maybe. I feel like
that'd be interesting.
Nashville has kind of started to blow up too. And here, if you want to know where it is, look for a state that has 0 state tax. That, my friends, is where you will start to see the next hub blow up.
Fantastic. All right, listen, appreciate you joining us today, Jake. This was a lot of fun. This was This is great. Cool. It's gonna be a lot more of this over at Demostack. If you're not following us on Demostack, please do that, because there's a lot happening. There's a big announcement coming out in a couple weeks. There's gonna be a lot of time on the road.
I love it. Well, I'm excited to come hang out.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.
All right. Thanks everyone
for joining us.
We'll see you.